for us as historians, for us as history teachers, moments that matter, turning points, are really important. Year 9 boys, you will have studied the First World War. You'll know about the cause of the First World War. You'll know that the First World War broke out when it did because of the assassination of Franz Ferdinand in Sarajevo in June 1914. You'll know that the car turned the wrong way and stalled, giving opportunity for Gonzalo Princip of the Red Hand to shoot Franz Ferdinand, the Archduke, and his wife, Sophie. And it opens up the great question, what if the driver had gone the other way? What if he hadn't done that wrong turn? Would the whole First World War have been different? Similarly, with the Russian Revolution. The Russian Revolution ultimately came down to Lenin making the decision to persuade the Bolsheviks to go and hold the revolution and bring down provisional government. If he hadn't persuaded them, would the whole thing have been different? Think about the Second World War. Think about Britain in the Second World War. In 1940, when Neville Chamberlain resigned, George VI, the King, summoned 2 leading politicians to Buckingham Palace, Winston Churchill and Lord Halifax. And Lord Halifax was thinking about making a deal, perhaps with Nazi Germany. And George VI asked Winston Churchill, who do you think should be Prime Minister? And he remained silent. And he remained silent for a whole minute until he suggested, Lord Halifax suggested, that maybe there shouldn't be a Prime Minister from the House of Lords. And Winston Churchill became Prime Minister, and he stood defending Britain rather than doing a deal after the fall of France. So often history is decided by very small moments. But I'm not going to talk to you about that today. I'm going to talk to you today about hands. Your hands, because hands are amazing. Hands can do all sorts of incredible things. And one thing that I know many of you do with your hands in this very hall is make music. Now, there's a moment that mattered for the most successful, the most famous music group of the 20th century, the Beatles, on the 9th of November 1961. They were performing a lunchtime concert at the Cavern Club in Liverpool, and in came Brian Epstein, who later became their manager, and turned, not Jeffrey, Brian, and turned them into superstars who went on to make all the records they did, and they've sold 600 million records. And the song that they were singing that lunchtime was I Saw Her Standing There. She was just 17, you know what I mean, and the way she danced was far beyond compare. I wouldn't dance with another, ooh, till I saw her standing there. Except for they sang it much better than I did. But that moment transformed the whole of British popular culture, the whole of Western pop music. Now, I was 17 once, and here is a picture of me, age 17. Back when I was 17, I think I'd already decided and found the thing that I enjoyed most in life, professionally, which is going in front of people and talking about what I've learnt and what I enjoyed. Because of what's something that happened when I was in Year 9, funny enough. I was invited by my Year 9 English teacher to give a book review. We're all given the opportunity to talk about a book we've read, to stand for 5 minutes in front of a class. And this finally was something that I was both good at and I enjoyed, speaking in public and being enthusiastic about. I spoke about George Orwell's 1984, and it was a really transformational moment for me. And going back to me, age 17, I got involved in debating, and I became co-chair of my school's debate society. And my proudest achievement when I was in the sixth form at school was finishing second twice in the annual balloon debate that happened. I never won, but I finished second twice. Now, as maybe you know, how does a balloon debate work? You've got 10 characters, And the idea is they need to persuade the voters to keep them in. And one year I finished second as Ugg the Caveman. Now, I haven't done the voice for 30 years, so here goes. Ugg, 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 Ugg. And people enjoyed it, but not as much the guy who did Harry Enfield impersonations. He won. Now, the next year, I came back to try and win, but sadly I only finished second, and I did an American TV evangelist. You know, perhaps the sort of thing, the guy who, in return for money, lots of money, sells fake prayers and fake blessings. And we're going to have him here, okay? And I want you to respond to him. Everyone in this room, I want you to put your hands in the air. Everyone in the whole room, you will have your hands in the air. Everyone, your hands in the air. And everyone in this whole room, I want you to look at your hands. Look at your hands. Because everyone, your hands are amazing. Look carefully at your hands. There are lots of things you can't see on your hands. In a 1 centimeter area of your skin, on your hands, there are 4 million bacteria. Potentially in one of your hands, in that nice, warm, moist environment, there are over 1 billion bacteria. So, I hope you wash your hands, and I hope if you go anywhere near someone who's just given birth, you wash your hands. Which brings us on to the person whose story I'm going to tell you today. I'm going to tell you a story about Ignaz Semmelweis. And this is someone who changed people's lives, someone who saved millions of people. He was born in 1818 in Buda, which was then, Budapest today is the capital of Hungary. Then it was divided into 2 cities, Buda, the hilly side, and Pest, the flat side. Either side of the river Danube. Eventually, they were brought together in 1848 as 1 city. Ignaz was born on the Buda side in 1818, and you can see here the house in which he was born. You can see here his parents, Maria and Joseph. You can see here a picture of him as a 14-year-old child. He, like some of you, excelled academically, and he went on to study law in Vienna, but that didn't satisfy him. So he went on to study medicine in 1837. In 1844, he became a doctor of medicine and obstetrics. Now, obstetrics, as many of you know, is taking care of women who are heavily pregnant, women when they give birth, and women after they give birth. And back in the 1840s, being a pregnant woman was a very dangerous pursuit indeed. 20% of newborn mothers died, and they died of what was called postpartum fever. And this was something at the time that was just seen as an accepted risk. But Ignaz Semmelweis wondered if there was something that could be done to try and sort this situation out. And he wondered if it wasn't, what was the reason was that the obstetricians, the doctors and the midwives were extremely dirty. They would often have bloody aprons. That was often seen as a sign of their experience. Their hands would often end up bloody, and they'd be passing germs from mother to mother, and that resulted in people dying. The idea that Ignaz came up with was getting people to chlorinate their hands, getting people to use their hands. He thought this would be a way of trying to improve the situation, getting rid of all that disease and dirt. And he took on leading a hospital in Vienna in 1851. As you can see from this graph, as a result of him using chlorine hand wash, encouraging the people around him, the number of women dying after childbirth dropped to 2%. So he made the practice more thorough, and in the next 4 years, only 8 patients died, fewer than 1%. In 1861, he wrote a book about this, publishing his findings. But I'm afraid his story was not immediately a happy one. He faced a lot of opposition because it flew in the face of conventional wisdom. In 1865, he had a breakdown, and he ended up in an asylum. And there in the asylum, he was attacked, ended up getting gangrene infection, and he died there 13 days after getting infected. Now, we now know that he was utterly onto something. We now know, because of microscopes, that they can spot the millions of bacteria on our hands. They can spot that what chlorine does is kill the most harmful ones. So, several years later, with Louis Pasteur and Joseph Lister, they were able to invent, they discovered germ theory, and they encouraged cleanliness in other areas. And they went back to Ignaz Semmelweis's writings and realized that he was exactly right, that his practice corresponded with their theory. And this led to a massive reappraisal of Ignaz Semmelweis, that this was someone who was exactly right in his observations, was exactly right in what he was encouraging people to do. And as a result of his actions, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of women who would have died after childbirth survived. So in Hungarian, he is known as Anyák meg Mentója, the savior of mothers. This is a great man. This is someone who, a result of his observations, result of his hunch, result of his determination, had this great moment that matters of encouraging people to clean their hands around women who'd just given birth. Okay? But I think there's something in this story much bigger and much greater than that. Year 8, Year 9, I think this is a story for us. This is a story for you. You think this hasn't been a talk about you? This is exactly a talk about you. Because one thing we debate an awful lot in history lessons is, does history shape individuals, or do individuals shape history? And yes, there'll be big impersonal forces which will shape your world: economics, climatic change, technology. But you as well will have the opportunity to shape the world around you. You will have the opportunities to develop passions, things you love learning. You'll have opportunities to pass that over to others. You'll have opportunities to entertain, to create. You will have opportunities to fall in love, for people to fall in love with you. You'll have opportunities to challenge conventional wisdom, to make great discoveries. Haberdashers, what are your moments that will matter? Thank you so much.